Haribo!
Hare Krishna.
We're live. Okay, cool. I don't know. Don't want the Mridanga to be heard. Right. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda, Radhe.
Jaya Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda, Radhe.
Jaya Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva,
Jaya Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nita Gora, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nita Gora, Hari Bol. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai.
So today we're going to be discussing Yudhishtir Maharaj, an emblem of Dharma. And some of the feedback from the last classes have been that I'm going a bit too fast. So I will attempt to slow myself down and make myself more understandable. And let's jump into Yudhishtir Maharaj's.
Yes, first welcome everyone. So Shashi Mataji, Anuradha Mataji, Ram Prabhu, and Raj Kumar Prabhu, and others, and Purushottam Prabhu as well. So and others, which some of them we can't see. But thank you very much for tuning in. So if there is any technical issue, we will restart the session in another laptop immediately. We got to set it up. We got everything set up. Not sure why there was a breakdown last time, but hopefully everything works okay this time. So Hare Krishna, Shika Mataji as well. Shika Mataji is very much interested in Mahabharat stories. So she's been giving a lot of encouragement for all of us. So Sumedha, carry on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritva Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Budirayet.
So, Yudhishtir Maharaj, the eldest of the Pandavas, who's often seen as a fairly underrated character in the Mahabharata, not much spoken of, not too controversial, and often overseen and not taken for granted in some sense. But he's actually a very great devotee of the Lord, and there are many things that we can learn from Yudhishtir Maharaj, and we'll be exploring them in this class today. And so we'll start off with just one question that we'll keep in the back of our minds, which is the only controversy around Yudhishtir Maharaj, which is if he is Dharmaraj, if he is truly the embodiment of Dharma, of religion, and he knows what's right and wrong, how could he gamble his own wife and as a stake?
And his own family members.
Yeah, and how could he gamble like that? So someone who is an embodiment of Dharma, how can they end up doing something like that? So we begin with Kunti Maharani, who has been given this benediction by Durvas Muni, this mantra she was given, so that she can call upon any demigod she desires, and through that demigod she can beget a son as a gift. And so we've already discussed previously how, out of childish curiosity, she used this mantra and invoked Suryadev, and Karna was born. And so at the correct time, much later on, after she had been married to Pandu, she uses this mantra because of a curse which Pandu receives, which stops him from having any children. So she decides that this would be the correct mantra to use. This would be the best way to beget children for her. And so she first invokes Yamaraj with this mantra. And Yamaraj gives her a son. And this is the eldest of all the Pandavas. And this is none other than Yudhishtir Maharaj, who is therefore known as a partial expansion of Yamaraj, or Dharmaraj, and the embodiment himself of Dharma. And so he's the eldest of the 5 Pandavas, and he often is the one who has to end up guiding them throughout the Mahabharata, because he's the most, in a sense, most mature, and he knows the difference between right and wrong. He knows his dharma. He knows what is his duty, what should be done. And so this is the background behind Dharmaraj's appearance, Yudhishtir Maharaj's appearance. So yes, I've used the term Dharmaraj a lot. Dharma means duty, and Dharmaraj is someone who knows their duty, the king of, in the sense, the king of those who understand their duty, someone who properly understands their duty. And therefore, I'll be using Yudhishthir and Dharmaraj interchangeably because it's the same person. Okay, so the first thing that we need to discuss is, before we properly understand what dharma is and what dharma isn't, or what adharma is, we need to understand why could someone who is dharmic, who is a great devotee of the Lord, who has done everything correct, who knows the difference between right and wrong, who is very learned, how can someone in that position even think of gambling their own family members and their own wife? How can someone do that? If you look at this from an outside perspective, this is completely against Dharma. There is no way anyone can justify this action whatsoever. And so there must be a reason. If something like this has happened, there must be a reason behind why this has happened. And there are several reasons that we'll go into. So the first thing we need to understand is that Yudhishtir Maharaj had been told by Vyasadeva that a war would happen. A war would soon happen, a massive war, and that he would be involved in that war. And after hearing this message from Vyasadeva, he realizes that if there's any situation that a war would happen in, then it would most likely be between the Kauravas and the Pandavas, because they are 2 opposing parties that have often competed with each other. And so he decides that he takes this vow in that moment, he takes this vow that I will always obey my elders. Because if I obey my elders and my elders give me the correct advice, there will be no difference of opinion, and I will always avoid war, or avoid conflict by doing so. So he takes this vow that he will always obey his elders. This is his, not only that, it's also Kshatriya code of conduct, that whenever Kshatriya is challenged by another Kshatriya, that they answer, they don't foolishly or cowardly reject the offer. So those 2 reasons bound him to go to this gambling match, because Vidura, who we've mentioned in a previous class, Vidura was the instrument used in order to get Yudhishthir Maharaj to come to the gambling match. He was invited by Duryodhan, and Vidura goes as a messenger. And Vidura is none other than the uncle of Yudhishtir Maharaj, and in that way he's a senior. And so Yudhishthir he has to keep his vow, and therefore he goes to see, and he goes to the gambling match. And so this is first reason. The second reason is that what we can see is, even though Yudhishthir is such a great devotee, even though he's so virtuous, he himself was trapped, and he himself had a big problem because of gambling. So the Lord demonstrates the principle of why we should not gamble, because even a great person like Yudhishthir, a great being like him, was affected by this gambling and was trapped and got himself into a very sticky situation because of it. And so it demonstrates this principle of why we should not gamble, why gambling is not advocated at all, and instead one of the 4 regulative principles in ISKCON is no gambling, because of how dangerous it is in itself. Even a great devotee was seemingly affected by it. And the final reason, on a more spiritual level, is that this gambling match and Yudhishthir Maharaj's actions were orchestrated by the Lord in order to show the principle of true surrender and who is our true protector. When Draupadi is staked in the gambling match, first Yudhishthir Maharaj loses all his possessions. After losing all his possessions, he goes on to stake Nakul. After losing Nakul, Shakuni says, look at you. It looks like you don't actually appreciate Madri's sons, and you seem to just want to get rid of them because they don't mean anything to you. So then he stakes Arjun after becoming triggered by this, and then he stakes Arjun. And then finally, after losing Arjun, he keeps on thinking, when will my luck change? Surely if my luck will change, and at some point I will win something back. And so after staking Arjun, he stakes Bhim. After losing Bhim, he stakes himself, and he loses himself in the match. He loses his own identity in that sense. He becomes a slave to the Kauravas. And then after staking himself, he stakes Draupadi, his own wife, because he thinks, whether this is not, I'm not justifying the mentality of Yudhishthir Maharaj here, but he thinks, at least I will win something, and surely I won't lose Draupadi because I've lost too many in a row. Surely I won't lose Draupadi. I will win something back, and we will be able to maintain our livelihood, because now Draupadi has no protector if I am lost. So this is his understanding, and so he stakes Draupadi as well, because he stakes himself before Draupadi, because he realizes that she's more valuable than him in that sense. So he stakes her afterwards. And so this is the sort of mentality, whether it's correct or not, we will come to in a minute, but this is the understanding on which he puts Draupadi as stake in the gambling match. And because Draupadi is lost, and because Dushasan tries to disrobe Draupadi, and she puts her arms up in the air and prays to the Lord, then the Lord provided her with unlimited sari so that she would not be disrobed and her chastity would be maintained. And so it demonstrates the principle that our only true protector is the Lord himself. There is no one else who will protect us in our time of greater need. Our friends and family will not be there for us. The only person that will be there always is the Lord. And Lord Krishna is our ultimate protector. So to demonstrate this principle as a spiritual reason, or more internal reason for this understanding, is that the Lord orchestrated Yudhishthira's actions and brought them about in such a way in order to demonstrate this principle that the Lord himself is our greatest protector. And so these are the reasons by which, even in a sense, Yudhishthira's gambling of Draupadi is dharmic. Firstly, to keep his vow. Secondly, to follow the Kshatriya code of conduct. Then thirdly, he places Draupadi after himself because he realizes that she will be left alone because he's already become a slave. And then finally, also because this is a higher principle demonstrated by Lord Krishna himself. So this brings us on to our next point. There's various ways in which Dharma, we've discussed this many times, Dharma is not a a simple law in a book. It's not static. Instead, it's dynamic, and it changes based on narrative and concept and understanding. So it's a moving sort of idea rather than being a static principle. And so there are various manners of dharma which are carried out, in a sense, various ideas and ideologies and intentions behind dharma. There's these three nitis, three ideas of how one should carry out their actions, which are provided in the Mahabharata. The first one is called Brihaspati Niti. So this is the idea that whatever action you do, it should be fair and square. You should only follow fair, open, dharmic means to do your action. That's it. You can't lie, you should tell the truth. This is very static understanding of this Brihaspati Niti. You can't lie, you should always tell the truth, etc. So these sort of ideas where you just be open, there is no hint of duplicity or prior thinking. It's very open and fair. This is Brihaspati Niti. And this is what Yudhishtir Maharaj would follow. And this is what he was following before the gambling match, because one of the reasons he comes is to fulfill his vow and a duty as a Kshatriya. So it's very open. He's just following what he's meant to follow. This Brihaspati Niti. Then another Niti that's there is the Kanika Niti. So Brihaspati Niti is about being open and fair. Kanika Niti is the exact opposite. Do anything you can, doesn't matter, just to get power. You can kill your friends, you can kill your family, you can kill your loved ones, you can do whatever horrendous activity you want in order to get power. This is Kanika Niti. And this is the principle in Mahabharata. We see that this principle is used by Duryodhana. This is his idea of thinking. Okay, we're not there yet. This is his idea of thinking. And so he thinks, whatever I can, I don't care. I'll kill the Pandavas, burn them in a wax house. I'll try and poison Bhima. It does not matter to me as long as I can secure my power. So this is his idea of thinking. A modern day example of this would be Aurangzeb, who, if you know your history, then you'll know that Aurangzeb, not only did he kill his elder brothers, he also imprisoned his father in the Agra fort, and he took power for himself. So this is the example of Kanika Niti in the modern day. Just grab everything, take power, doesn't matter at any cost. Do whatever you want, get the power for yourself. And so here's the idea, which is very tricky to understand. When someone is using the principle of Kanika Niti, will Brihaspati Niti work? Will being open, fair, and square work with them? So the example which Govind Prabhu gave in his class was, if you're having a lawsuit and your friends and family are going against you, they put a case against you, saying that you've been abusive, you've been ruthless, you've not been a good person in the family, and they want your possessions. You can choose the simple option and say, like Brihaspati Niti, I'll be open, I'll be honest, I won't lie, and it doesn't matter if I lose my possessions, but I'll be open and honest. The principle to understand here is, if you take that understanding that doesn't matter, I'll just be open, I'll do the truth, then you have to understand that yes, you will lose all your possessions. And that's the harsh reality of life. If you follow Brihaspati Niti when someone else is following Kanika Niti, then you will experience torture and pain. So can it be justified to follow Brihaspati Niti in that sense? Yes, it can. If I myself am following Brihaspati Niti, then I am sticking to the correct principle, and therefore by that principle, although I might have materially lost, I can say that I have stuck to the correct principle. However, there is a but to this thing as well. Just because, if we go to the court case analogy, if I am the only person on this side, everyone else is against me, there is no one to support me, I don't have any other family member with me, I'm not there with two other brothers, I'm not there with a wife, I'm not there with a daughter and a son. If it's just me that they're going against in this family case, and it's just me who will receive the outcome, then Brihaspati Niti is okay to follow. yes, I will lose everything, but it doesn't matter because it's only me who's affected and I can deal with that. I can cope with it, but I'm going to be honest because that's what I feel most correct to do. There is a problem. If I do have 2 children and I'm going in this family case, if by me being honest, by me not saying anything, we just say, okay, I'm just going to be open, I'm just going to say what I think I need to say. If by doing like that, we get, I bring about a bad outcome to my children, I can stop them from having a decent livelihood, I stop them from living in a nice family, I stop them from going to a good education, because of my actions, then Brihaspati Niti cannot be justified. If your actions following Brihaspati Niti against someone else's Kanika Niti are bringing about non-compromising effects to those around you, then Brihaspati Niti is adharmic and it should not be followed. And we can go to the third Niti. So Brihaspati Niti, be open, be fair, square, follow the rules of Dharma, very static. Kanika Niti, go against all of that, just do whatever you want, just make sure that you have the power in your hands, because when you have power, you can do what you want. But the third Niti is Shukra Niti. And so when we look at Yudhishthir, he's following this Brihaspati Niti. I'll be open, I'm not going to rethink anything, I'm following my vow, I'm just going to go to this dice match. He loses everything because Brihaspati Niti won't win against Kanika Niti. And not only does he lose everything, but he also, his actions result in him and his brothers and his wife losing all their property and having to go 12 years in exile, 13 years in exile, and losing all their belongings. So Yudhishthir's actions here, following Brihaspati Niti, show that actually at times we can't always follow this understanding because it might bring about bad consequences to others. So Shukra Niti is do good, do dharma, do that in order to get a good outcome, or do adharma in order to bring about a good outcome. Do either good or bad, doesn't matter, as long as the outcome in the end is good. It doesn't matter if your actions are good or bad, as long as the outcome's good. And a simple example of this Shukra Niti is a murderer comes to your house and says, is there anyone inside? Is there anyone inside the house? Now, if you take Brihaspati Niti, then you can say, yes, there's 4 people in this house, me, my partner, and my 2 kids. You can say that is Brihaspati Niti, and yes, you're not lying. However, by your actions, you're going to cause unnecessary, well, not just pain, you're going to cause the death of the 4 people in the house, or the 3 people in the house, other than you. If you lie to the murderer and say, no one's in this house, you would have saved those lives. So yes, lying is not followed, in a sense, lying is wrong, but because it's done here to bring about a good outcome, it is justified. Shukra Niti says you can do good or bad actions, so lying is a bad action technically, but because it brought about a good consequence, it's justified. And this is the principle in life that we need to understand, because Dharma doesn't necessarily depend on is the action good or bad, it depends on the consequence of it. If you look even at Mahabharat, war is bad. War is a bad thing to do. It's not good to fight. It's because there was unnecessarily bloodshed, all of these extra things that will happen, unnecessarily death. War is not good. It's not good to have war. However, because this war is done in order to rid the earth of the unscrupulous like kings, this war is justified. So this is an example of Shukra Niti. Shukra Niti can be used to combat Kanika Niti. You don't have to use it in your day-to-day life on a regular basis. It's not, we always stick to it. However, if someone is like a Duryodhan, then you can't be like a Brihaspati. You can't be like a Yudhishthir in that sense, because Yudhishthir loses everything. If someone is like a Duryodhan, you have to think cunningly, okay, I'll say no, I don't want to go to this gambling match, because even though it goes against the principles of Dharma, it brings about the best outcome. So these 3 ideas, if we just go through them again, Brihaspati Niti, open, honest, genuine. Kanika Niti, go and grab everything that you want, kill everyone that you want, make sure you secure power. And Shukra Niti, do good or bad as long as you bring about a good outcome. There is a good consequence from your actions. So to combat Duryodhan's mentality, or to combat this Kanika Niti mentality, you have to use Shukra Niti, because Brihaspati Niti does not work. So I think the example that Govind Prabhu gave is, if you're like a Buddha and someone else is like a Hitler, it doesn't work. You have to stop them. That's it. If someone is being if someone is following the principle of non-violence like Mahatma Gandhi, and there's a Hitler's trying to take power, it won't necessarily work, because you have to be a bit more cunning. You have to think logically. You have to think more politically, because life is not straightforward like that. Which is why, in the end, Gandhi didn't just use his non-violence tactics, but he also looked at what the American revolutionary tactics were, and then he carried out the famous story of going to the sea and the salt, what's it called, the salt tax, going against the salt tax. So you have to use Shukra Niti to combat Kanika Niti. This is a really, really, really important point that you can learn from Yudhishtir Maharaj. A lot of the time, people just say, no, I'll just be open, I'll be genuine, I'll be honest, because that's what I think is right. If you do that, it might potentially bring about a bad outcome for other people around you, and so it can't be justified. And that's it. So this shows us the mindset of Yudhishthir is that he's thinking, I'll follow what I think is right. Brihaspati Niti, that's my sort of thinking. I'll do that. It doesn't matter whatever Duryodhan does. He changes this later on, and we'll see how he changes it. But this is his original understanding before the gambling match. So then we'll focus more on that later. But this is a really important concept to keep in the back of your mind of these three nitis and how they work. So what is an example of how Yudhishthir himself is an emblem of Dharma? What sort of example is there? Well, if he's an emblem of Dharma, why is he ended up losing a gambling match and causing his family so much misery? Is he really that dharmic? Actually, Yudhishtir Maharaj is in the sense, the most, some people would say the most intelligent person in the Mahabharat after Lord Krishna himself. Because what he does after this will show us how he is the true embodiment of Dharma. So, at one time during the exile, the Pandavas were in Dvaitavana, in the forest of Dvaita, and they were there hunting, and they were there as Kshatriyas, and they were obtaining their food through hunting at the time, and they were surrounded by sages. And at that time, Duryodhan and Karna and Shakuni, their blood was sort of, like, okay, look, we've taken the king of the emperor of the whole world, we've just defeated him in a gambling match, and now we have all his money, we have all his opulence, we have all his prowess. So what can we do? Let's do something like to show off with it. And so Duryodhan gets the idea, let's just make it look like we've gone to demonstrate our prowess, and let's accidentally go to Dvaitavana, where the Pandavas are. And so we can just sort of flex, show off what we've got that they haven't got, like all the new wealth that we've got that they've lost. Let's do this. Let's go to Dvaitavana. So they go, and as they're going in these forests, they're halted. Their progress is halted by some Gandharvas, because the Gandharvas are playing in that forest, and they don't want a massive army with all these jewels and weapons and luxury to come and disrupt them. So they say, stop, no, we don't want you to enter here now, because we're enjoying right now. And Duryodhan says, who are you? I got the wealth of the entire world with me. I'm of the emperor of the entire world. Technically, I'm the true heir to all that wealth, because Yudhishthir Maharaj doesn't own it anymore. So who are you to stop me? Instead, if you have the guts to actually fight me, then come as a Kshatriya and I'll fight you. And so Duryodhan and the Gandharva and Duryodhan along with Karna and Shakuni go to tackle these Gandharvas, and the Gandharvas surround them, and Karna is, with the backing of Duryodhan, Karna is immediately captured, and then Shakuni goes directly after Karna, and Duryodhan is there battling with his bow and arrow, and then when that's destroyed, he picks up his gada, his mace, and he carries on fighting, but even he is destroyed, and he is captured, and he's outnumbered, and he's not killed, he's just captured by the Gandharvas. And the Gandharvas obviously are celestial beings, and so they support the righteous. So they're actually supporters of Yudhishtir Maharaj. And so they are happy that we've got Karna, we've got Shakuni, we've got Duryodhan. So now we can keep them and stop them from doing their horrible actions that they're now doing. And so they become very overjoyed like this. But there are still some remaining soldiers left that flee from the battlefield, from the battle, and they know that, yes, the Pandavas are here in Dvaitavana as well. They're right here. They're not too far away. Let's run to the Pandavas and get their help so that we can free Duryodhan and Shakuni and Karna, because Duryodhan is the heir to the throne. He's a prince. We need to save him. So they run away they flee from the battle, and they go to Yudhishtir Maharaj. And when they go to the Pandavas and they say, look, Duryodhan has been captured. Duryodhan is now stuck. He's trapped. We need him back. He's the heir to the throne. He's our prince. It's our duty to protect him, and we can't do it. So we're asking for your help. And when they say that, Bhima, who's Duryodhan's main rival, he just laughs. He's laughing in their face, going, look, who do you think you are? You think you're going to come to us after Duryodhan's done all of that to us, and you're going to tell us to help and free Duryodhan? And he starts laughing at them. How stupid you guys are that you're supporting such a demoniac ruler, and that you've even come up with this stupid idea that you're going to come to us, who Duryodhan has caused to go into exile with his wretched plans, and you think that we're going to help you. And the Pandavas, the rest of the Pandavas, they also begin laughing, except for Yudhishthir. And Yudhishthir Maharaj silences them, and he says, Bhim, Arjun, go. And Arjun, because he's very subordinate to Yudhishthir, and he straight away picks up his bow, his Gandiva bow, and he's ready to leave. But Bhim's just fuming. He's thinking, have you seen, big brother? Look, by following your Brihaspati Niti, by being all kind and virtuous, you've lost everything. What do you think you're doing now by going and freeing them? What we couldn't do, they have done. They have captured Duryodhan. We failed to do that. We couldn't kill him. And they have managed to kill him. We can't kill because we're cousins. It's not moral for us, but they can. And if they captured him and they've stopped him, why should we go and free them? We are undoing everything that we've all stood for. And then Yudhishthir Maharaj demonstrates his principle of not just being kind and virtuous, but also his political thinking, which he's now learned in the forest, which he has learned. So he says to Bhim, it's one thing for a Kshatriya to be killed in battle, a glorious death, a heroic, they fought till the end. It's one thing for them to be captured in battle. It's a little bit shameful. It's not nice. It's things that it burns the heart even more. But if you go and free Duryodhan, then that will hurt Duryodhan even more. We are 5 Pandavas and they are 100 Kauravas, and that's what we see. But to the outside world, we are 105. So we will go and we will free Duryodhan, and not only will it be morally correct, but it will also give Duryodhan, he'll feel so shameful. My arch rival, my biggest enemy, Bhim and Arjun, the Pandavas who I sent into exile, who I have hated so much, they had to free me when I was in my time of need. That would be so painful to Duryodhan and Karna to hear something like that, and to have that memory with them constantly. So Bhim says, oh yeah, it's a great idea, let's go. And he immediately goes with Arjun, and it's just those two against all the Gandharva warriors. And the Gandharvas say, why are you coming to fight us? Why would you do that? we're here, we're helping you by stopping Duryodhan. And Arjun says, no, it's the order of Yudhishthir, so we're going to fight. And what Karna couldn't do, Arjun could do. And what Duryodhan couldn't do, Bhim did. And this actually shows that even on a material level, forget spirituality and morals, even when it comes to just fighting capability alone, Bhim and Duryodhan are greater than Bhim and Arjun, are greater than Duryodhan and Karna. So people often say, it's unfair in the Mahabharata, they use cunning tactics in the war. Otherwise, Duryodhan and Karna, they're over-demonized, they're not that bad, they shouldn't have lost, Duryodhan was a greater warrior than Bhima, or Karna was a greater archer than Arjun. They weren't, because they lost. And Bhima and Arjun actually went to the Gandharvas, defeated the Gandharvas, and freed them. So there is no way anyone can argue that they were superior in fighting capability, because they lost and Bhima and Arjun had won. And they not single-handedly, but them two, they defeated the rest of the Gandharva army. They freed Duryodhan and Shakuni and Karna, and they came to Yudhishtir Maharaj, and Yudhishtir Maharaj said, my dear brother, my dear cousin Duryodhan, I hope that we have been able to fulfill our service to you as prince by freeing you, and please now go and carry on with your royal duties. And this burnt Duryodhan on the inside so much, and he took a vow on that day that I will kill Bhima, or he will kill me, but I want to be the reason for Bhima's death. That's the vow that Duryodhan takes out anger and agony on that day. So this is a different principle now. He's not only Yudhishthir Maharaj, he's so generous and kind and virtuous that he's even willing to free someone like Duryodhan, but he's also demonstrating this next level principle of Shukraniti, thinking, okay, look, yes, we are actually doing good, but we're also teaching Duryodhan a lesson. So this is a more cunning in a sense. It wouldn't be cunning. It's still moral. He's not going against the Dharma, but he's still thinking more politically and more tactically. And so this is an important principle, and it just shows actually how virtuous Yudhishthir Maharaj is. If someone treated us in that way, would we have the guts to even say, yes, it would hurt their feelings, so let me try and get them out? We wouldn't even have the guts to say it. We would be so happy to see the other person in pain. But Yudhishthir Maharaj is such a virtuous soul that he actually wanted, and he freed Duryodhan. And so actually Yudhishthir Maharaj is known as, one of his names is Ajatashatru, the one without any enemies. And this is why he's given that name. Although it appears that he has enemies, his enemies are only those who don't agree with the principles of Dharma. And this is why in the Mahabharat war, the Pandavas are victorious, because they follow those principles and they are headed by Yudhishthir Maharaj. And so next important incident of Yudhishthir Maharaj, and it shows his self-control, is the one of the Yaksha Prashna. Some of you may know this, some of you may not. But one day, a Brahman comes, as the Pandavas are in exile, a Brahmana comes and says, I need your help urgently. I have these 2 sticks, which I used to make fire with, and I use that fire to perform sacrifice with. I've used that fire and I perform sacrifice with that fire. And I can't make that fire because a deer has come into the ashram, and somehow or other, the sticks that I would use to start the fire have been trapped in the antlers of the deer. And it ran away with them, and I can't get the antlers back. Because he's a Brahmana, he's a simple Brahmana. So he comes and he says, because you are, well-built, strong Kshatriyas, this is something that you should be able to do. You should be able to retrieve my sticks from the deer's antlers. And so the Pandavas, they head out with their bows and their arrows, and because they're all Kshatriyas, they're all experts in not just in archery, but in also hunting. So they think it'll be an easy job. We'll just go, we'll get the deer, we'll get the sticks, and we'll give it back to the Brahmana. And they go, and the deer seems to zigzag and move in various ways across the forest. And they are unable to keep up with it. Every time they see it, and then in the next second they can't see it. And even these they're five great warriors, even they're struggling to try and get the antlers of this deer. And in the end, they become so exhausted. At some point, they just give up and they say, okay, we've lost track of the deer. It looks like the deer's run out of this forest completely. And so they all take shelter under a banyan tree. And because they're so exhausted, sweating and tired, Yudhishtir Maharaj says to Nakul, just climb up this tree. And if you see any signs of water, then let us know, because we are very thirsty right now and we urgently need this water. And so Nakul climbs up the tree. And the Pandavas, an important point to mention is they're not just skilled in the art of fighting, but they also have material knowledge as well. So they can recognize these sort of things, like how do you know where there's water, recognizing how far it is, because they have not only the spiritual understanding, but they also have a very high level of material education as well. And so Nakul climbs up the tree and he recognizes the sound of, so this is how trained the Kshatriyas are. He recognized the sound of a croncha bird, I believe, which is a crane, an aquatic species, aquatic crane species. He hears that sound and he can see the direction it's coming from. He hears that it's coming from that direction. Okay, so that means that signifies that there's water in that place. And so he climbs down and he says, okay, I've heard in that direction there is some sounds of aquatic cranes. So I will go there and I'll bring water. And so Yudhishthira Maharaj says, yes, go for it. Go get the water, please. And he goes, Nakul goes, and he goes to that lake. He goes for a while and he finds this big lake and he thinks, oh, finally we can have water. So he scoops his hands into the water before he brings any for the rest of them. He thinks, okay, I'll just drink some water myself. He scoops his hands into the water and he's about to drink. And then a crane says, oh, no, sorry. Yeah, a crane in the tree says, a crane in the water says, no, stop, don't drink this water. This is my territory. And if you drink this water, you will die. And he thinks, yeah, sorry, you have to answer my question and then you can drink this water. And he thinks, what is this? I'm Nakul. I'm one of the 5 Pandavas, you know? Who do you think I am? I'm a Kshatriya. A little crane that's demanding me to answer their question. Why am I going to listen? And so he just goes and he drinks the water and immediately he drops down dead. And then the Pandavas, the rest of them are waiting for so long, and then Yudhishthira says, Sahadev, go see if your brother is there. Go see if you can help him, or if he needs any help. It seems that he's taking a bit too long. Maybe he's struggling. To go and see what's happened. So Sahadev goes, and the crane says the same thing again. And he also doesn't pay attention because he's so thirsty. He just drinks the water and he drops down. And then Arjun is sent. And Arjun, he doesn't care. He tries to shoot an arrow at the bird and he misses. He decides, he just puts down his bow and he's about to drink some water and he drops down dead as well. And then finally, Yudhishthira Maharaj is getting very worried. Maybe that, if there's some problem happened, surely Arjun would have figured if Sahadev and Nakul couldn't, because Arjun's very, very intellectual, very intelligent. So he should have known. Maybe there wasn't actually a sound of an aquatic crane. Maybe it's just some sort of other sound which has mimicked it. Maybe there is no lake in this forest. And so he's thinking, maybe I've just sent them on an endless journey which they'll never come back on. And so he says, finally, because he's so confident, Bhim, in Bhim's strength, he sends Bhim, okay, now you go and you see what's the situation, you sort it out and bring your brothers back along with the water. And so Bhim goes, and Bhim's very proud and arrogant, well, in a sense, not arrogant, but he's very proud of his strength. So he goes and he sees the crane there and he hears the crane saying, don't drink this water, otherwise you'll die. If you want to drink this water, you'll have to answer my questions. He doesn't think about it twice, and instead he drinks the water quite sarcastically, in a sense, saying, oh, what are you going to do to me? And immediately he also drops down dead. And then Yudhishthira Maharaj himself sets out and thinks, okay, what have I done? I've sent my brothers on a death mission. I've sent them just to death. I've not helped them at all. What have I done? And he goes and then he sees that his 4 brothers, the 4 great heroic warriors, are now lying there on the floor. but he notices that they don't have a deathly their faces are still jovial in a sense. They don't seem to have died, and they seem actually as if they're still alive, but just in a state of unconsciousness.
And there is no war
and
or anything like that.
There's no sign of war. There's no one else that could have killed them. There's no injuries. There's no arrows. There's nothing. They just seem to have died. So he thinks maybe this is just the water in this lake is poisoned. And so he, as he's lamenting, he's about to drink some water as well. But then the crane says, no, you can't drink this water. You have to answer my questions before you drink this water. And Yudhishthir's self-control is seen here. Unlike the other 4 Pandavas, even though he's also incredibly thirsty and he's been waiting for a very long time as well for water, he doesn't drink the water and instead says, if you killed my brothers, surely you're not an ordinary crane, because I have been told that Arjun would help me in battle. Arjun would help me regain my kingdoms. I've been told about beam strength, and I know the prowess of Nakula and Sahadev. So surely you're not any ordinary crane if you can do something like this. And he says, please first reveal your true identity so that I can properly understand who you are. And the crane takes on this form of a yaksha, a celestial being. And he says, I'm actually a yaksha, and I'm the predominating deity of this lake. So if you answer my questions, then you can drink the water. And so he says, okay, ask me those questions now. And we will discuss in the next class the very interesting lessons and morals that we can learn from Yudhishthir's answering of these questions. And also we can understand how Yudhishtir Maharaj completely changed his style of or his niti and his ideology and his actions later on in the Mahabharata, from the simple Brihatpati niti to the more complicated Shukra niti. So that's that for today. Has anyone got any questions?
Yeah, so we'll stop there, and we got quite a bit to discuss. So I think maybe it's a good idea to make this into 2 parts rather than put everything in one go. So I think it's better to stop there. And if anybody has any comments or any questions, let me know. Dilip, Damodar Das Prabhu, very nice class, Sumedh Prabhu, your Krishna's mercy. Already. Thank you so much, Damodar Das Prabhu, for your blessings. Yes. Shashi Mataji, thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Just 1 more minute, we'll wait and end the lesson class here, and we'll continue the class next week, part 2. Thank you, Prabhu, Ram Prabhu. Thank you, Purushottam Prabhu, Anuradha Mataji. Excellent. So we'll stop there. Thank you once again. So look forward to seeing you all online next week. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. Rajkumar Govinda Prabhu, thank you.